Welcome to the Ask Chris Real Estate Podcast with Chris Phillips from Keller Williams. A successful 20-year veteran in the Middle Tennessee real estate market with over 100 five-star reviews, Chris is known for his knowledge and integrity. Whether you're buying, selling, investing, or just curious, his insight will guide you along the way.
Welcome to the show. We've got a special guest today, Leslie Tate with Gateway Title, and we're going to talk a little bit about what a title company does. When I first bought my home in 2001, the first time, I had no clue what I was doing at this office. I had no understanding about what I was doing there. My real estate agent didn't explain those things to me, and we're going to have Leslie explain those things today. So welcome to the show, Leslie.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so let's get right into it. What does a title company do?
So title companies have two major functions, one being the escrow side of it. So we prepare the settlement statement and we take in all the money and we disperse all the money. So the borrower sends us, or the buyer sends us their money and the lender sends us their money, and then we make sure everyone gets paid so that the transaction is official and done. And then the other big part is the title search and the title insurance part of it, which I'm sure we'll talk about more.
Yeah, and speaking of title search, what is title search and why does that matter?
So a title search is basically a person sits down and they go through all the land records and look for anything that could have affected the property. So they're looking to see, did the correct sellers convey the property over and over again? Did those people have any liens on the property? Were there mortgages that were paid off? Were they released? Are there any lawsuits or judgments that could affect the property or taxes paid? So they're basically looking for anything that could affect the new buyer's ownership of the property. And there isn't like a magical Google search engine where you can just type in a property address and find everything. It really is an art form of them going through, finding one document and then finding 4 documents after that, and they go back deeper and deeper. So it's basically a big history of the property.
Do you do this at the county level or the city level? What does that look like?
So it's at the county level. So
Okay.
Each county has a registrar's office, and any document that's supposed to affect a property is filed there, and that's what we dig through.
Okay. And so title insurance, why is that important?
So title insurance, that's one of those policies no one knows anything about, but it's a one-time premium that you pay when you purchase the property, and you'll buy one. If you're getting a loan, you'll pay for one for the lender, and then you can buy one for yourself as well. But it basically insures your interest in the property. So as I said, the title search is a human being looking through the property records. So there's a lot of room for error. And a title insurance policy protects you if there was an error in the search, but even if the search was 100% perfect, even if it was 100% perfect, there's still errors that could have happened that they couldn't pick up on, like a fraudulent conveyance or someone who signed that shouldn't have signed on behalf of something, or something was indexed wrong. So there's a lot of room for error, and a policy will protect you. And even if the search did find something that wasn't perfect or savory, the cool thing about title insurance is that they might feel comfortable with it regardless, because they know enough about case law or precedent to say, look, we really don't think that's going to be an issue, so we'll still insure it so that the closing can take place.
And when you're explaining that to the first-time home buyer, do they question a lot about the insurance? Do they get nervous, or
No.
or do they try to say, well, we don't need this expense, or can we avoid it?
We mostly see cash payers who say, we don't want to pay for a title insurance policy, and then we have to kind of explain the risk. But most people, the way it's priced, it's not much more expensive to just also get the owner's policy. So we mostly see people just pay for it, and they're happy to pay for it. Every now and then we have people who opt out of it.
Now, have you seen it where title insurance came into play and it saved the day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all the time in closings, even without the clients knowing, there might be something in the history in the title search that people are uncomfortable with, but because it's already insured, we can keep going. And there's a lot in the background with title insurance that buyers and sellers never know about.
Okay. So it's the day of closing. They're coming in. You know, what's happening behind the scenes that they don't know about that you're doing the day of closing, right when they get ready to come in and sign the paperwork?
Yeah, so up until closing, we have worked on getting, like I said, we do the settlement statement. So we've worked on getting the payoffs from the seller, that if the HOA is owed any money, what the lender wants collected. So we've done all that to get us to the closing table. And then we sit down at the closing table, go over the documents. But then after our buyers and sellers leave, we have a lot to do still. We have to get the documents recorded with the registrar's office, like I mentioned, that makes this transaction official and shows that they're the new owners. And then we have to make sure everyone gets paid. So we make sure our realtors get paid. Most importantly, we make sure that the sellers get their money safely. There's a lot of wire fraud and scary stuff going on. So the big thing after closing is making sure that all the disbursements are made.
So one subject that I always look for when I'm representing the buyer or the seller is the time of day I'm closing and the day I'm closing on. Talk why those things are important.
So a lot of people obviously want their keys at the closing table. They expect that they're going to close and then get the moving truck and move on with their day. But, sellers don't have to give keys until they've received their funds, technically. So at the title company, it's our job, along with the realtors, to make sure everyone is signing early and we're getting it funded and all of that as soon as possible. That way people can have their keys. And that's a big part of it, is getting in front of it and scheduling it smartly and not having, a seller close at 4:30 in the afternoon.
And because you work with a bunch of other local title companies, you know when their cutoff periods are.
Right.
Versus what yours is. So that you can make sure that happens, because sometimes there's what we call a split closing.
Yes. So we work, in the state of Tennessee, a buyer can close with one title company and a seller can close with another, vice versa. So we work together to get it closed, and we all have to work together to make sure that everyone's happy at the end of the day and gets their funds.
So when they do a split closing, one person's representing the seller and then the other one's representing the buyer.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then y'all work simultaneously together to get it done.
We kind of share responsibilities to get
What
it done.
are some common issues that sometimes surprise the buyer?
So probably surveys, requiring a survey. So we're lucky to be in the state of Tennessee, where there is a lot of beautiful rural acreage. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of those don't have surveys that are either never been surveyed or haven't been surveyed since the 60s. And often the legal description, which is the way you describe the property, will say it's from a hackberry to a fence post to someone's barn. It's very generic, and you can't really tell where the property lines are. So we often have to require a survey. We try our best not to, because it's expensive and timely. So we try not to, but that's always the biggest surprise, is when a survey is required at closing.
And do they sometimes have some surprises, maybe on some taxes they might owe due to the time of the month they close, or some prepaid fees that are not determined by you? Who are those determined by?
So, the challenging part of closing cost, obviously that's what a lot of buyers care about, is a lot of it is on the lending side of things. So your bank is going to charge a lot of fees, and they're going to have requirements based on, what's collected and all that. So there can be surprises with taxes being due, or, prorations or surprise HOA fees. A lot of HOAs charge pretty high fees that aren't really expected at closing.
Yes.
So things like that. There are surprises.
So why should a buyer or seller pick a local title company versus like a national title company?
So we're obviously going to know more about the state and the state's. We actually it's funny, we can see some of it, like when there's a national lender, they'll come ask us questions that don't quite make sense. It's the same with the title company. They're going to require things that don't necessarily make sense for the state of Tennessee and our statutes and real estate law. So it's always best to close with someone who's familiar with your state specifically, so you're not having to do extra things that aren't really required. So
if I'm a first-time home buyer, what are some advice that you can give them as far as making it easier for the closing and for the title?
So really just surrounding yourself with a good team. So picking a great realtor like Chris is essential. Everyone has a cousin or, a neighbor that's a realtor, but picking someone who has actual experience is one of the big things. Picking a lender that knows what they're doing. And then of course the title company are kind of the three that work together to get you done. Buyers aren't expected to be experts in this field. We're expected to be experts in this field. So if you surround yourself with a good team, then you don't have as much to worry about as how I feel. Yeah.
Well, I really rely on Leslie and her team at Gateway. And one of the reasons why is because when I'm negotiating the deal, a lot of times if I need the closing costs paid, I don't know what the title policy is going to be. So I can come to you and you'll let me know, hey, this is what it's going to cost for this price on this address. And it helps me to negotiate that on the front end. So you make my job easier. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, guys, Gateway Title, come see Leslie. We love working with Leslie and her company, and y'all come and see them and close with them. If you've got any more questions or anything like that, Chris Phillips with the Phillips Group, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Leslie, for coming.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
For answers to all your real estate questions, ask Chris at the Phillips Group, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.